Chicago O'Hare International Airport thrummed like a living machine, voices overlapping, wheels clattering across polished floors, intercoms chirping out delays and gate changes. In the middle of the controlled chaos, Officer Ryan Cole adjusted the strap of his vest and kept a steady pace beside his K-9 partner, Ranger. The German shepherd moved with calm confidence, scanning the crowded terminal with sharp, intelligent eyes. Together, they had worked dozens of patrols. Together, they had caught smugglers, traffickers, even an attempted bomb threat 3 years earlier. Ryan trusted Ranger more than he trusted half the officers on payroll. It was supposed to be a routine sweep, nothing out of the ordinary, just another busy afternoon. But halfway through the walk, Ranger slowed. Ryan felt the pull on the leash and looked down. Ranger's ears were up, his body stiffening like a bowstring being drawn back. His tail went straight. His breath shifted from relaxed panting to controlled, deliberate inhalations. Ryan recognized the change instantly. It was Ranger's mode before an alert. His muscles tightened, his senses sharpened. "What is it, boy?" Ryan murmured. Ranger ignored him. The dog's nose twitched, picking up a scent Ryan couldn't begin to detect. Then, without warning, Ranger lunged forward, tugging Ryan several steps toward baggage claim Carousel 6. Travelers around them turned to look. A woman holding 2 coffee cups paused, confused. A businessman pulling a carry-on stepped back as Ranger darted past him. Ranger wasn't aggressive, he was deliberate, focused, intent on something Ryan couldn't yet see. Ryan tightened his grip on the leash, but it wasn't enough to stop Ranger. "Easy, Ranger, easy." The dog pulled harder, issuing a low, vibrating growl that Ryan had only heard a handful of times in their years together. It wasn't anger, it was warning. The kind that made your stomach drop. Ranger stopped at the edge of the rotating belt and locked his attention on a dark blue suitcase making its slow orbit. A perfectly ordinary-looking piece of luggage, medium-sized, slightly scuffed, a faded sticker on the side, nothing unusual. But Ranger stood rigid, pointing at that suitcase as if the world depended on it. Passengers nearby glanced around nervously, unsure if something was wrong. A father reached instinctively for his teenager's shoulder. A group of college students paused mid-conversation. A woman whispered, "What's happening?" to no one in particular. Ryan knelt beside his partner, trying to read him. Ranger's breathing deepened. He sniffed again, then barked sharply, once, loud, echoing across the baggage hall. Ryan felt adrenaline spike through his veins. Ranger didn't bark like that unless the situation was serious, really serious. He immediately radioed dispatch. K-9 unit signaling possible threat at Carousel 6. Send TSA and security to my location. His voice was steady, but his pulse hammered. The suitcase came around again, drawing closer. Ranger's growl deepened, turning into short, tense bursts of warning. He pawed the ground and leaned toward the belt as if he couldn't stand being even inches away from what was inside. "Back up, everyone, please step back," Ryan shouted to the crowd. People retreated quickly. Security protocols clicked into place like dominoes falling. TSA agents rushed in, establishing a perimeter. The conveyor belt continued rotating lazily, the suitcase moving toward them with eerie calm, as if unaware of the chaos it was causing. Ryan's mind ran through possibilities: explosives, drugs, hazardous materials. Every scenario was bad, and the fact that the bag had no tag visible made it worse. He glanced around the hall, searching for anyone watching too closely or hurrying away. Nobody suspicious. Just the tension, just the unknown. The suitcase thumped gently against another bag as it reached the near end of the belt. Ranger tensed harder, barking again, this time twice, sharp and commanding. His highest alert signal. The one Ranger only used when danger was immediate, when something inside the bag absolutely, definitely was wrong. And then, the suitcase shifted on its own for a split second. No one moved. The suitcase's tiny shift could have been nothing, a jostle, a vibration, a belt malfunction, but Ryan saw it. Ranger saw it, and the tension in the air thickened like fog before a storm. The suitcase hadn't been touched by anything. It had moved from the inside. "Shut the belt down," Ryan barked. 2 TSA agents sprinted to hit the emergency stop. The conveyor belt screeched, then halted with a clunk that echoed through the giant hall. Bag slid a few inches before settling, but Ranger didn't look at any bag except the blue one. His body was coiled tight, trembling with intensity, eyes locked on his target. Ryan's earpiece crackled as operations confirmed that bomb techs were on the way. ETA, 3 minutes. 3 minutes suddenly felt like a lifetime. Passengers began murmuring again, a nervous ripple spreading outward from the barricades officers were setting up. A mother clutched her toddler, turning her child's face away. A teenage boy filmed on his phone until an officer told him to put it away. The air smelled faintly of rubber from the belt's abrupt stop and the metallic tang of anxiety hovering over the crowd. Ryan moved closer to Ranger, lowering his voice. "Easy, buddy, stay with me." But Ranger was locked in, muscles twitching with instinct. The suitcase sat completely still now, innocent on the outside, utterly silent. Its navy surface reflected the overhead lights. If a bomb was inside, time was critical. If it wasn't a bomb, then what had moved? Ryan's mind raced through possibilities. Animals being smuggled illegally, contraband stashed and shifting, a broken device rolling inside. But Ranger wasn't trained for animals or electronics. He was trained to detect danger. A TSA supervisor, Alvarez, hurried over. "Is it a true alert?" Ryan didn't take his eyes off Ranger. "Highest alert," he barked twice. Alvarez's face whitened. "All right, bomb team's almost here. I'm locking down the entire claim area." Within seconds, officers pushed crowds farther back. Intercom announcements instructed travelers to clear the space. Some argued, most obeyed, fear in their eyes. The suitcase suddenly thumped again. A soft sound barely noticeable over the chatter, but undeniable. Something inside was pushing outward. Alvarez stepped back. What the hell was that? Ryan didn't answer. He couldn't. His throat tightened. Ranger responded before he could speak, barking again, nails scraping the floor as he tried to inch even closer. Passengers gasped. A man dropped his coffee. A baby started crying. Even the officers stiffened. Ryan motioned to Ranger, "Stay, sit." But the dog's instincts were too strong. He only lowered slightly, unwilling to retreat from the threat. Bomb techs finally arrived, 2 of them, dressed in heavy gear, rolling a remote-controlled inspection robot. The crowd murmured louder, tension boiling over. Someone whispered, "This is like a movie." The lead tech quickly assessed. "No tag, no owner." "No one's come near it," Ryan confirmed. "Copy, will scan it." The robot whirred to life, displaying live feeds on a monitor. It rolled toward the suitcase, metal claw poised, sensors reading radiation, heat signatures, explosive compounds. But the readings weren't matching anything typical. "Unusual movement detected inside," the tech muttered. "Not mechanical, harmonics are strange." Ryan frowned, meaning this isn't a standard device, or if it is, it's behaving wrong. The robot moved closer, extending its claw to lightly tap the suitcase's side. Everyone watched. Everyone held their breath. The suitcase answered the tap with a muffled, rhythmic thump from within. A patterned thump, like someone or something trying to signal. The lead bomb tech stepped back, eyes wide. That almost sounded like. Before he could finish, the suitcase shuddered violently, rocking on the belt like something inside was fighting for space. Ranger lunged forward, barking in a frantic, desperate tone Ryan had never heard, as if warning them all that whatever was inside needed to be opened now. Then a sound drifted out from the suitcase. A faint, shaky noise. A cry, a human cry. Ryan's blood ran cold. Because the sound wasn't from an adult. It wasn't from an animal. It was the soft, terrified cry of a child. And it was coming from inside the suitcase. The cry was almost imperceptible at first, buried beneath the hum of conveyor belts and the anxious murmurs of passengers. Then it came again, louder and unmistakable, a fragile, frightened sound, high-pitched like a bird trapped in a cage. Ryan's stomach twisted. Ranger stiffened even more, letting out a low, urgent whine, pawing at the belt as if he could tear the suitcase open himself. "Medics, get ready, move," Ryan barked into his radio. His voice barely carried over the swelling panic around Carousel 6. The terminal's controlled chaos was breaking down. Travelers huddled in corners, some shielding children, others staring in disbelief, phones raised to record. The bomb techs froze, exchanging uneasy glances. One of them whispered almost to himself, "This isn't mechanical." The words hung in the air, chilling Ryan. A mechanical device doesn't cry. A bomb doesn't whimper. Ryan crouched beside Ranger, keeping one hand firmly on the dog's harness. "Easy, easy, boy," he muttered. Ranger's ears flattened slightly, but he didn't stop growling. He didn't stop signaling. He knew, and Ryan knew Ranger always knew. The bomb tech carefully maneuvered the remote-controlled robot closer. Its arm extended slowly toward the suitcase's zipper, the claw gripping the fabric with robotic precision. Onlookers held their breath, their own instincts telling them to step back, but their curiosity rooting them in place. The zipper was tugged halfway, creaking under the strain. From the opening, a small hand emerged, so tiny it barely reached the edge. It twitched, the crowd gasped, a collective shiver ran through the terminal. Ryan's heart raced, his hands shook slightly as he gestured to Ranger. "Easy, let's be gentle." Ranger lowered his head slightly but stayed alert, watching over the unseen child like a guardian. The robotic arm lifted the suitcase lid fully. Inside was a toddler, shivering and pale, eyes wide with fear and tears streaking down tiny cheeks. She was dressed in a faded pink sweater, dirty from what had clearly been a long, cramped ride inside the suitcase. The girl froze, staring at the bright lights of the terminal, unsure of whether she was safe or still in danger. "Medic," Ryan shouted, reaching in carefully to lift her from the suitcase. Ranger pressed close, nuzzling her with his muzzle, letting out soft, comforting whines. She flinched at first but slowly reached a trembling hand to touch the dog's fur. But something else caught Ryan's eye. Tucked beneath the lining of the suitcase, almost invisible, was a metallic glint, an outline of a compartment concealed from plain sight. His gut told him it wasn't just luggage, it was a smuggling container designed to hide more than a terrified child. The terminal's hum was replaced by urgent whispers and the high-pitched alarms of security radios. Passengers murmured in disbelief. A mother's sob broke the silence. Children stared with wide, fearful eyes. Ranger growled softly, protective and tense, as Ryan crouched beside the suitcase, eyes locked on the secret compartment. He gestured to the bomb techs. "Check that, there's something else in there." They froze, then nodded, prying carefully. Ryan's mind raced. Documents, contraband, a weapon, whatever it was, it couldn't be good. Ranger's growl intensified, low and vibrating, a warning that danger was still very real. Suddenly, Ryan's radio crackled. A surveillance officer reported a man sprinting from a distant terminal exit, hoodie pulled low over his face, moving fast, with a duffel bag swinging wildly at his side. Ryan's pulse spiked. The tiny girl in his arms whimpered, and he whispered soothingly, it's okay," but the danger wasn't over. Whoever had put her in that suitcase was still out there, and now Ryan had to decide, chase the man or protect the child, knowing both could change in a heartbeat. And then the man did something unexpected. He reached into his jacket. Ryan's breath caught as the fleeing man's movements froze for a fraction of a second. The man reached into his jacket, and instinct screamed at Ryan to act, but it wasn't a gun, not yet. Instead, the man pulled out a phone, his fingers trembling, and dialed frantically. Words tumbled out in a language Ryan didn't recognize, fast, urgent, desperate. He was pleading or perhaps warning someone. Ryan's gut twisted. Whatever had just happened at Carousel 6 wasn't isolated. It was part of something bigger. Ranger growled, sensing the tension, keeping the girl close with a protective nudge. The toddler clung instinctively to the officer's vest, sobbing softly. Medics had arrived, but Ryan hadn't had a chance to let them take her yet. Every instinct told him the child had to be safe no matter what. The suitcase sat open on the conveyor, bomb techs now focused on the secret compartment. Inside were bundles of documents, small stacks of foreign passports, and an assortment of boarding passes from multiple states. Cash, lots of cash, peeped from the corners. Ryan's stomach sank. The evidence screamed of organized human trafficking. And the tiny girl, terrified and alone, had been smuggled through one of the country's busiest airports. His radio crackled. "Suspect heading toward parking garage bridge, 12 o'clock, a voice reported. Ryan's pulse quickened. He had to make a choice, chase the fleeing man or stay with the girl. Ranger's leash tightened in his hands. The dog seemed to know he wanted to pursue. Ryan made his decision. "Ranger, let's go," he barked, tightening his grip. Adrenaline surged through him as they pushed through the terminal, weaving between stunned travelers. The man's hooded figure sprinted ahead, his phone still clutched in a panicked fist. Ryan's boots pounded the floor, echoes bouncing against the high ceilings. Security gates slammed behind them, locking automatically. Panic rippled among travelers and employees. Ryan sprinted with Ranger at his side, the dog's powerful strides eating up distance. The man glanced back for the first time, and Ryan saw fear flash across his face. Not aggression, not defiance, but sheer, desperate terror. And then Ryan noticed something even more disturbing. 2 additional men were emerging from the crowd near the exit. They were tall, deliberate in their movements, moving toward the fleeing man, not away. Precision, coordination, danger. Ryan's mind raced. The man on the phone wasn't the mastermind. He was running from these men. Ranger's growl deepened, low and threatening. Ryan radioed backup, 2 subjects pursuing, armed or dangerous, moving fast. The trio dashed into the long corridor toward the parking garage bridge. Ryan kept pace, his focus split between Ranger, the fleeing man, and the child he had briefly handed to medics in the terminal, a momentary reassurance that she was safe, but his heart pounded with fear for both. As they reached the escalator leading to the bridge, Ryan noticed the first of the two pursuers reach into his jacket. A flash of metal caught his eye. He hesitated, ready to draw his weapon, but the movement was strange, almost mechanical. Ryan's mind raced through the possibilities: firearm, knife, device. Ranger barked ferociously, lunging forward, tension coiling in every muscle. The fleeing man surged ahead, slipping past Ryan just as the first pursuer's arm shot out. Panic and precision collided in a dangerous dance. Ryan cursed under his breath. He had to intercept, but the bridge was long, the suspects were skilled, and every second counted. Behind them, the second pursuer adjusted his stride, keeping close, silent, ready to strike. Ryan felt his pulse spike. He knew one misstep could cost lives, not just his, not just Ranger, but the toddler, too. And then the man he was chasing tripped slightly, his phone slipping from his grip, landing directly in the hands of the first pursuer. The phone clattered to the floor, bouncing once before the first pursuer snatched it up with alarming speed. Ryan's heart hammered in his chest. That phone wasn't just a device, it was a lifeline. It contained the fleeing man's desperate attempt to save the toddler, the only thread connecting the child to her would-be rescuer. And now it was in the hands of someone else entirely. Ranger growled sharply, teeth bared, stance ready for action. Ryan braced himself. "Hold him, Ranger," he barked. The dog lunged at the pursuer, grabbing the sleeve of his jacket with a powerful bite, forcing him to stumble. The first pursuer spun violently, trying to shake Ranger free. Sparks of panic ignited the air. The man had underestimated the dog. Ryan dove in, tackling the attacker to the ground. The two men hit the floor with a heavy thud, rolling across the terminal tiles. Ranger held tight, growling with low, unwavering force. People screamed and ducked behind pillars. Ryan's adrenaline surged. He couldn't let the man escape, not now, not with the evidence he carried. Meanwhile, the fleeing man, seeing the chaos, bolted toward the parking garage stairwell. Ryan's mind raced. The little girl, the toddler, was already in the hands of medics, crying but safe, yet her ordeal wasn't over. He couldn't let these men regroup. Backup units arrived, blocking the stairwell exit. The second pursuer, realizing his accomplice was pinned, darted toward the escalator, intent on intercepting the man. Ryan motioned to officers, cut him off. His voice carried authority and urgency. Ranger barked again, signaling the dog's readiness to pursue. Then Ryan noticed something alarming. The first attacker's pocket bulged strangely. He reached down instinctively, retrieving a small keycard. Ryan froze. The design was familiar, emblazoned with the logo of the airline printed on the boarding passes found in the suitcase's hidden compartment. That small card was more than a key. It was a signature, a mark of complicity. Someone inside the airline had facilitated the child's trafficking. Ryan's blood ran cold. This wasn't just a random act of cruelty. This was organized, methodical, calculated. The first attacker struggled beneath Ranger's relentless grip, panting, sweat streaming down his face. Ryan leaned close. "Who are you working for? Who sent the child?" The man spat, shaking his head violently, refusing to answer. But Ryan knew the answers were in that keycard, in the boarding passes, in the hidden compartments carefully designed to evade detection. Meanwhile, the second man had reached the parking garage bridge. Ryan sprinted after him, Ranger pulling alongside, muscles coiled, adrenaline fueling every step. The suspect's hood fell slightly back, revealing his face, panic and fear etched into every line. This man wasn't the mastermind. He wasn't evil. He was terrified. Ryan caught up, shouting, "Stop, police!" The man skidded to a halt, looking at the officer, looking at Ranger, realizing escape was impossible. He dropped to his knees, chest heaving, tears mixing with sweat. Behind them, officers restrained the first attacker fully, cuffing him as Ranger barked triumphantly, still guarding the area. Ryan glanced back at the second man, cornered, trembling, desperate. And then the toddler's boarding pass, hidden among the documents in the suitcase's secret compartment, caught Ryan's eye. The name printed on it matched the fleeing man's identification. He wasn't the abductor. He had tried to save her and panicked when the chaos exploded around him. Ryan's mind spun. The web was larger than he realized, the danger far from over. Every second held questions. Who else was involved? How many more were in on this trafficking ring? And could they track down all the missing children before it was too late? As Ryan approached the man, he whispered hoarsely, "Tell me everything." The man's eyes widened, his lips trembled. Then he whispered two words that made Ryan's blood run cold. "They're watching." Ryan's heart skipped. "Who's watching?" he demanded, voice low, urgent, pulling Ranger closer so the dog could shield them both. The fleeing man's eyes darted nervously to the terminal exits, then down the emptying hallways as if shadows themselves had eyes. They're inside, he stammered. Inside the airport, don't trust anyone. They'll take her if they know we're here. Ryan felt a chill crawl up his spine. Inside the airport, the very place meant to protect the innocent was now compromised. Ranger growled low, sensing the tension, muscles taut and ready to spring. Every instinct screamed danger. Backup officers had secured the first pursuer, but Ryan knew the second man, the one who had forced the fleeing man to flee, was still a threat. He had to move fast. Every second the toddler remained at risk, every second these traffickers remained at large, could be fatal. The fleeing man swallowed hard. I don't know how many, I only know there are more, at least 2 others, coordinated. They're part of a larger ring. His words faltered. He glanced nervously at Ranger, then back at Ryan. They watch everything, cameras, staff, even passengers. They move fast. They'll know if anyone's onto them. Ryan's pulse pounded. He looked over at the blue suitcase, now surrounded by medics and officers. The hidden compartment had been opened, revealing documents, cash, fake IDs, and boarding passes. But this was just the tip of the iceberg. Someone had meticulously orchestrated the child's movement through multiple states. Someone had connections in the airport itself. "Where is she now?" Ryan demanded, trying to keep his voice steady. "In medical, but she's not out of danger. If they know who I am," the man trailed off, eyes wide with panic. Ryan's mind raced. The man's warning meant the threat wasn't just outside. It was inside, moving unseen, watching every reaction, every step. Ranger pressed closer to Ryan's side, sensing the invisible tension. Every officer in the terminal was a potential target. Every passenger could unknowingly carry a message. Then Ryan's radio crackled. "Officer Cole, we've secured the first suspect. No further movement reported yet." But the tone betrayed doubt, fear, uncertainty. Ryan knew better. This was far from over. The fleeing man's phone buzzed on the floor nearby. Ryan picked it up carefully, noting the last messages, a series of encrypted texts and a map pinpointing locations within the airport. His gut twisted. The attackers had eyes on key areas. They could be monitoring security feeds, hidden cameras, even employee radios. Ranger barked sharply, startling the fleeing man. "He's fine," Ryan said quickly, patting the dog's head, but his gaze stayed locked on the terminal exits. Something wasn't right. Something unseen was moving closer. Then Ryan noticed it, a shadow slipping across the surveillance monitors behind the concourse. Too fast for a security guard, too deliberate to be random. A figure in dark clothing, moving between cameras and staff. Ryan's stomach clenched. He turned to the fleeing man. "You told me there are more. Where?" The man swallowed hard. "Near the cargo area, but they're already moving. You have to hurry. If they reach the child." His voice broke. Ryan glanced toward the medics carrying the toddler, unaware of the invisible danger creeping closer. Ranger's ears twitched, tail stiff. The dog growled, low in warning, a sound Ryan knew meant imminent threat. Ryan grabbed the man by the shoulder. "Tell me everything, now." But before the man could respond, an alarm blared. A red light flashed. The intercom announced, "Security breach. All personnel, secure your zones immediately." Panic erupted. Ryan's heart sank. He realized the warning wasn't just about the toddler, it was about everyone in the terminal. And then he saw them, 2 figures, moving with precision, slipping silently toward the secured medical area where the child was being treated. Ryan's blood ran cold as he spotted the 2 figures moving with uncanny precision toward the secured medical area. Their dark clothing blended with shadows, faces obscured, but every movement screamed experience, danger, and deadly intent. Ranger growled low, tail stiff, ears pinned. The dog's growl was not just a warning, it was a signal. Ryan had to act fast. "Move," he shouted into his radio, calling backup. 2 suspects heading toward the child's location. Intercept immediately. The terminal erupted in controlled chaos. Officers ran, directing passengers to safety, while Ryan surged forward, Ranger at his side. Every second felt stretched into an eternity. His heart pounded not only for the toddler, but for the man who had tried to save her, and the first attacker still restrained nearby. This operation was turning into something far bigger than a simple suitcase alert. The 2 intruders approached the stairwell leading to the medical area. Ryan could see their intent in their movements, swift, calculated, ready to strike. Ranger barked, lunging forward, forcing the first figure to hesitate. Ryan took the moment to tackle the man, sending them both sprawling across the polished tiles. The struggle was brutal. The attacker fought with strength and skill, thrashing wildly, but Ranger bit down on the man's jacket, immobilizing him while Ryan cuffed him. Sparks of panic ignited the air, and nearby officers jumped into action, restraining the second intruder as he attempted to flee toward the bridge. Ryan's chest heaved as he rose to his feet, keeping his eyes on the restrained attacker. The man's face twisted with rage and fear. Ryan noticed the keycard still clutched in his hand, the same keycard linked to the airline and the child's secret boarding pass. Whoever had planned this knew the airport inside and out. The second attacker, caught moments later by backup officers, struggled against his restraints, muttering in a language Ryan didn't understand. Ranger remained vigilant, growling softly, refusing to leave Ryan's side. The dog's instincts never failed, and Ryan knew it had saved lives today. Ryan approached the fleeing man, the one who had tried to rescue the toddler. He was still trembling, tears streaking his face, guilt and fear etched deep. "It's okay," Ryan said firmly, patting the man's shoulder. "You did the right thing, you saved her." The man shook his head. I didn't know if I could. I thought they'd kill me if I failed." His voice cracked. "They have people everywhere inside the airport, inside the city. They track everything. I didn't know who to trust." Ryan's jaw tightened. "We'll handle it, but you have to tell us everything. Every name, every location, every contact." As Ryan and officers led the restrained attackers to secured areas, FBI agents arrived, taking over the investigation. Documents, passports, and boarding passes from the Suitcase revealed a sprawling human trafficking network, with links to multiple states, organized flights, and even airline employees complicit in the crimes. Ryan allowed himself a brief glance at the toddler. She was safe, wrapped in a blanket, still trembling but alive. Ranger nudged her gently, tail wagging slightly. The little girl's eyes met the dog, and she reached out with tiny hands, clutching the fur, whispering something Ryan couldn't hear. The medics smiled, telling Ryan and the man that the child would recover fully, thanks to their intervention. But the officer knew the danger wasn't completely over. The network had been exposed, but there were still unanswered questions, other victims, other flights, other complicit employees. Ryan turned to Ranger, kneeling down to meet the dog's intelligent gaze. Ranger's eyes seemed to say what words could not. The job wasn't done. And as Ryan glanced back at the restrained attackers, he realized the web of deceit and danger was far from unraveled. Then the fleeing man whispered again, voice trembling, "They'll never forgive me, and they'll come for her again." Ryan's stomach tightened. He knew the child's safety was only temporary. Every moment held uncertainty. And in that instant, the toddler looked at Ranger and whispered her first words since the ordeal, "Doggy saved me." The terminal fell silent around them, but Ryan knew the fight was far from over. Outside, the shadows of a larger network lingered, waiting. The terminal was eerily quiet after the chaos. Officers moved methodically, securing the restrained attackers and gathering evidence. FBI agents took over, scanning documents, passports, and boarding passes recovered from the blue suitcase. Ryan stood back, Ranger at his side, both still alert. Despite the apparent resolution, a sense of unease lingered. The network was far from fully exposed. There were other victims, other flights, other complicit insiders. The work was just beginning. The toddler, wrapped in a soft blanket, sat on a medic's lap, trembling but alive. Her tiny fingers reached out to Ranger instinctively, clutching the dog's fur. Her wide eyes met the German shepherd's gaze, and she whispered two words that cut through the tension of the day. "Doggy saved me." The words echoed through Ryan's mind, a reminder of the stakes and the victories, however small. The fleeing man, still shaking, was escorted to a secure area to provide a full statement. He had tried to rescue the toddler and had unknowingly become a key figure in dismantling the trafficking ring. Ryan watched him speak to investigators, realizing that ordinary courage sometimes came in the quietest, most desperate moments. This man's actions had prevented a tragedy, and now they would help unravel an entire criminal enterprise. Meanwhile, the first two attackers were processed and questioned. One of them, caught with the airline keycard, revealed the extent of the network. Other employees had assisted in the trafficking, providing access, boarding passes, and coordination. Flights across multiple states had been used to transport children illegally, hidden in luggage compartments or under the radar. Ryan's stomach tightened at the thought of how many more innocents might still be at risk. Ranger, sensing the shift in tension, relaxed slightly but stayed close to Ryan. The dog's instincts had been the difference between life and death. Ryan knelt beside him, running a hand through the thick fur. "You did good today, boy," he murmured, voice heavy with relief and admiration. Ranger nudged him gently, still alert but content, as if acknowledging the praise without breaking the vigilance. Outside, the media had begun gathering, cameras flashing, microphones thrust forward. Passengers retold their accounts of the chaos of the suitcase, of the child's cries and Ranger's heroic actions. Social media posts spread rapidly. Videos of the dramatic scene went viral within hours. Yet for Ryan, the attention didn't matter. What mattered was that a child was safe and a dangerous network had been exposed. In the following days, investigations expanded. Multiple arrests were made, airline employees were suspended, and federal charges were filed against the trafficking ring. The child was placed in protective care while authorities worked to locate her family. Ryan followed the updates closely, heart swelling with a mix of relief and lingering concern. Late one evening, Ryan returned to the terminal. Ranger trotted beside him, ever loyal. They paused near Carousel 6, now quiet and empty. The blue suitcase sat in evidence storage, a chilling reminder of how close disaster had been. Ryan glanced at Ranger, who sat obediently, eyes alert. "We stopped something today," Ryan said softly, "but we can't stop everything, not yet." Then as he straightened, he heard the faintest whisper of laughter from behind the barriers, a tiny, innocent sound. The toddler, now safe and beginning to recover, had been brought back briefly under careful supervision. She waved at Ranger and Ryan, her eyes bright. Ranger barked softly, wagging his tail, while Ryan felt a swell of hope. The investigation would continue, the traffickers would face justice, and the child had a chance at life. But one truth remained crystal clear. It had taken courage, instinct, and unwavering loyalty to prevent a tragedy. Ranger's vigilance, Ryan's bravery, and the desperate act of a man trying to do the right thing had intersected at the perfect moment. As Ryan and Ranger left the terminal together, the lights glinting off the polished floors, Ryan knew the world was imperfect, dangerous, and unpredictable. But today, at least, they had tilted the balance toward good. And somewhere in the shadows of the airport, other eyes were watching, waiting. But for now, the child slept safely, and a hero in fur had ensured her survival.